Welcome back to the Porter Report Head Coach Showcase. I'm Riley Frain, and this afternoon I'm joined by Assistant Coach of Kansas City's men's basketball program, Michael Bowden. Coach, thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon. How are you doing, and how's everything going this offseason?
Everything's going great. Kansas City got beautiful weather, beautiful barbecue, and just about to finish our fifth week here of workouts for the summer.
Absolutely, that's great. We love to hear that. So it's certainly been a busy couple months for you and the entire staff at Kansas City. I believe I between 7 new additions to the roster this offseason. So I kind of want to dive right into talking about some of those guys. And I think the first player I wanted to ask about was Christian Coruscant, who arrived from Chattanooga, where he played last season after previously finding some success with Houston Baptist. But Coach, talk to me a little bit about, what the recruitment process was like with Christian and, what excites you and the rest of the staff most about his addition to your roster as a grad transfer.
His name first came to us through some contacts through our coaching staff had with coaches who had coached him at previous schools, but also being a West Coast kid. We got pretty strong West Coast ties. Our head coach Marvin Menzies is from LA, so that kind of got his name across our table, and then we started doing a deep dive into the type of person he is, character, what type of family he had, and also what type of work ethic he had. Once all those kind of checked off, we started developing a relationship with him, and really grew to like him as a person, but also his leadership qualities off the court. We thought would be a big asset to us being a fifth-year guy.
So I think next up, a guy I've really been looking forward to, asking about is RT Stapleton, a Division II transfer who joins the Roos from a local program in Lincoln University, having previously spent time at Lewis University as well as Division I Radford. But for those who don't know, Stapleton was really dominant over the past season at Lincoln, averaging career highs of 17.5 points per game and 3.4 assists. So I'm curious, when recruiting guys from the D2 level, Coach, how do you go about evaluating that potential talent jump to the D1 level? And I know you guys had the opportunity to face him in a preseason scrimmage last year. So what interested you and the staff most about, Stapleton's game?
Seeing him in person against us last year was a really good gauge. With his speed, I think that it's very hard to tell how fast a guy is on film, but when you're seeing it live, it's a different evaluation. And with the transfer portal and COVID years, I think you got to be able to open up your lens to all levels. You saw Charleston had a lot of non D1 guys on the roster, and they went to a tournament, won 30 games. I don't think the level is a deciding factor. I think if you do your homework, if you watch whole games instead of synergy clips, and you get to know the guy and what he's driven by, I think anybody is an option. Artis has kind of blown his staff away, not necessarily with his basketball skills yet, but his leadership and his voice has been a big impact in our program. Not to mention his skill set is going to help us win some games.
All right, so now, unfortunately, with all these names coming in, you guys have had to deal with some adversity in this offseason in the form of roster turnover, as most mid-major programs do in this era of college basketball. And in particular, Coach, you guys lost two names who were really pivotal, in year one of the Marvin Menzies tenure. Those two being Raquandis Mitchell and Shamari Allen, with the pair transferring, out for their graduate years. But with both having found a lot of success on the court over the past season, what was it like to get to work with two highly talented kids in, Mitchell and Allen? And, what do you think, how impactful do you think they were to what you guys are looking to build and develop at Kansas City?
Yeah, those guys are the kind of the building blocks of our player development program here. Both guys average 4 and 8 points a game previously to us coming in, and both average somewhere around 18 points a game. And that just speaks to their level of dedication to the program. Our player development program, which kind of is a model of Rick Pitino's player development model system that we had at Louisville. And we wish those guys the best of luck. But I think coming into next season, we're going to be a lot more balanced on offense. where we probably won't have 2 guys average 18. We may have 5 or 6 guys averaging around double figures. I think that will lead to more assists and higher shooting percentage.
So moving right along, you guys really took advantage of JUCO recruitment and added 3 players from NJCAA programs, one from a local school in Independence Community College forward, Melvin Ebencoley, and 2 from out of state in Jamar Brown of Phoenix College and Cameron Fass of Scottsdale Community College. But we hear a lot from coaches on the show that JUCO recruitment is really all about the relationships and connections you have with players and can develop. And so I'm curious, Coach, what the recruitment process was like with these 3 guys. And, again, how do you maybe go about evaluating the right players to reach out to in a sea of really talented JUCO athletes?
Yeah, Coach Esposito and Coach Menzies both spent some time out in the Arizona area. Coach Menzies at Grand Canyon, and Coach Esposito was a high school coach before coming here for 2 years at Cesar Chavez High School. So I think both those guys had relationships with junior colleges out in Arizona, which allowed us to, hear about and then evaluate and then build relationships with Karen Foss and Jamar Brown out in Arizona. And, they just filled a massive need that we lacked last year as far as shooting. We were second worst team in college basketball in shooting last year. And ironically, the team above us and below us both made the NCAA tournament. So we didn't want to be down there this past year. So we got both those guys who shot 45 and I believe 49% from 3 last season. And then Melvin just being a somewhat local product, we kind of got his name late and kind of vetted him, and we needed to fill a void as far as at the forward center spot.
So, Coach, I wanted to ask you about the Summit League, as a whole, with, you and really the rest of the staff kind of getting your first taste of coaching in the conference over this past season. But, I think it's a conference that's seen a lot of growth over the past few years between, the success of Oral Roberts recently, the recent inductions of Kansas City and St. Thomas to the conference, and continued competitiveness from really just teams all around the conference. But after your first season with the Roos, Coach, what are your thoughts on the strength of the conference? And maybe furthermore, how do you think, you guys have tailored your roster this offseason, kind of following what you've seen your first season in the Summit League?
Yeah, I would say the first experience would be it's a very offensive league. Everybody can shoot it. Half the teams, probably 1 through 5, can shoot it. Guys off the bench can shoot it. So I think our recruiting changed a little bit into trying to get a couple more guys that can stretch the floor. Last year we were a little dominant on shooting 2s and getting to the rim, but this year we want to kind of space it out, maybe allow for a lot more flow in our offense. But the league's really competitive. I mean, any given night, I feel like any team can beat any team just because of how offensively efficient these teams are. And they really stretch the floor. I mean, they're not shooting just 3s. They're shooting Steph Curry 3s sometimes. And when you get that type of efficiency and that type of confidence, you're in a dogfight any night that you're not shooting well.
All right, Coach, first off, thank you so much again for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your time. But before I send you off here, we always like to kind of set the coach up with our final question of the interview. So, we talked about how the transfer portal has kind of influenced Kansas City's roster this offseason, the success of the conference as a whole, and Kansas City's development and growth within it. But Coach, really, what do you want to say to the Kansas City fans, alumni, and community to kind of get them ready and excited for another season of Roos basketball here?
Hey, the rise of the Roos are coming. Year 2, it's going to be exciting. We need to pack the gym this year. Let's go.
Perfect. Lots to be hyped and excited about in Kansas City for next season. Thank you so much again, Coach Bowden, for joining us. We really appreciate the time.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you, guys.